Hey everybody, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here. On today's video, I'm really excited to bring this to you. Quite a few people have watched and commented on the Offgrid Raptor Series tent that I've got. And I love that tent. I've used it, you know, I've probably slept in it out of the last 3 or 4 months, probably about 16 nights so far. So spent a good amount of time in it, and, you know, weather from 20s up to 40s. And it's been great. Really, really great. So in this video, a lot of people have kind of asked like, okay, but you didn't show putting the cover on or taking the cover off. So when I went on a trip about a month ago, I actually recorded that, and I threw the drone up in the air too. So you kind of get like a bird's eye view, and you get to see the whole tent, you know, sort of taken apart, opened up, how long it takes, all that good stuff. And then the next morning when I woke up, I threw the camera back up and I showed myself putting it back down, which is fun. So, you know, I don't want to speak ill of it. It is a really nice tent. The worst part about it, though, is the cover, because it is kind of a pain. But I've got some tips. I've got some things that I've learned with all the time that I've spent in it. So, you know, if you just got it, or if you're looking at it and considering it, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a great tent. But in this video, I'll give you a lot of good tips that I think will help you make better use of it. Also avoid ripping the cover, because that's bad, and I did that. And also make it a little bit easier when you're packing it up or, you know, taking it down. So if you're new to the channel, my name's Fletch. This is All Things Overlanding. Basically, we talk about overlanding stuff. We talk about Xteras, because I have one a little bit, but mainly overlanding type stuff, gear reviews, do-it-yourself mods. I'm a huge do-it-yourself person. I just like to build my own stuff so that it's custom for me. I'm also cheap. So if you're into anything like that, definitely click that subscribe button. Love to have you on the channel. Love to hear you commenting and kind of chat with you. Before we dive into the video, I did just quickly want to touch on my featured partners. All these companies are awesome, like overlanding specific companies, and they're just great to work with, and I love that they, you know, are my partners. Starting with Overland Addict, pretty much anything you could want for overlanding. They sell wavy and fuel cans, he sells rooftop tents, he sells everything, right? So check them out through the link in the description below if you're looking for any kind of gear. Last US Bags, again, make some awesome overlanding bags, like stuff for tools, stuff for trash, stuff for just like anything that you could want for overlanding, they make it. So check them out through the link in the description below. More Expo, coming up here in February 2021. Super excited, February 13th and 14th. They've sold a record number of tickets, so it sounds like this event is going to be huge. The place is twice as big as it was last year, so it's going to be crazy. But get your tickets through the link below so that you have them when you get there and you don't have to wait in line to pick them up. And then last but not least, Northology Adventures. Again, awesome gal. Cindy is her name. She's awesome. But she puts together a free overlanding magazine. So if you click on that link below and go through there, you can sign up for it. Again, it's totally free, but it is a beautiful thing with tons of great articles, tons of great overlanding type stuff and photography, and it's amazing. So check that out. So without further ado, though, let's dive into the video. Gotten a lot of requests and a lot of interest in this Offgrid Raptor Series tent, and for good reason. It's an awesome tent, and it's a great value. So someone recently actually reached out to me and said that it was $850 right now on Amazon with free shipping. I bought it for $900 about 3 months ago. I probably spent about 15 nights in it or so far. Tonight will be night 16. It's going to get down in the 20s tonight, so I'm going to be able to test out kind of how it does in the winter. I typically have camped in the winter down to -5, -10 degrees, and in like a $50 Coleman pop-up tent. So compared to that, I will say that the quality and the heft of the canvas on this thing is significantly better, so I'm sure that it will do better than that. Is it like a comfortable Four Seasons tent? That I don't know yet. So take that with a grain of salt, in that I am not a tough guy or anything like that, but I'm typically solo. I don't have any kids or wives complaining about the temperature or anything like that. If it's cold, I just deal with it, suck it up, and I'm miserable the next day. And if I sleep okay, then I sleep okay, right? Kind of as far as how I run the tent, it took me about the first 3, 4, 5 nights to figure out the condensation to venting ratio. So again, if you have this tent, let me give you a little bit of a pointer here and hopefully help you out. What I found to work the best. So the first night I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have so much condensation. I'm just gonna wrap up really warm, and I left the whole front flap open. So I left the big, huge door open but down. So it was down, but it wasn't zipped shut. So it wasn't holding any heat in. I also vented the windows probably about 3 inches down. So it was like sleeping outside basically with a roof over me, like sleeping under a tarp. And I froze to death, man. It was about low 30s and it was chilly. I did not sleep well. I did not have a good time. Night 2, I actually zipped up the whole entire front window door door opening, and then I vented the windows just barely. Like I just undid the zippers like 2 inches at the top. Tons of condensation, right? Tent full of water dripping everywhere on the ground around me. Terrible. So I aired it out the next day. Night 3, what I did was, again, closed the main window door thing in the front, and I zipped down the side windows probably about 1 or 2 inches down and pulled the flap down. So there's about an inch and a half of visible like view through the screen on both sides to allow the air to flow through the tent and take the condensation with it. That night, again, low 30s, just me in the tent, almost no condensation. Perfect. And I was warm enough, it felt great, everything was good. So as I mentioned on this video, I'm going to be taking the cover off and showing you kind of how that goes. I'm going to show you the whole process. I'm not going to cut it unless I fall or do something really embarrassing or stupid. I'm just going to run it all straight through so you can literally see the whole process. Things to keep in mind. On my truck, I have an Xterra, so I do have sliders. The reason I mention that is it gives me a little bit easier access to the roof. You can, of course, pop your doors open, stand on the rockers, and get up there just as well. The sliders just make it a tiny bit easier. Also on the Xterras, they have these rear steps. That's a really nice benefit. So if you have an Xterra, this tent is really great for you. If you don't have that though, you can stand on the tires, you know, that kind of stuff. I've done that before. So just trying to give you some pointers, right? I will say that this cover is the worst part of the tent. And what I mean by that is there's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad per se. It's just the tent itself goes up and down super easy. It has a ton of room in it. It's super comfortable. I love everything about it. I wish that it had, and I may at some point do a DIY video of how to make like a hard cover for it that you can just strap down. I'm really brainstorming on that and trying to come up with some ideas. And you'll see why here in a second when I take it off. It's just a little bit of a pain because you kind of have to go around. There's a buckle on each corner, and then there are these little straps under here with basically like a metal hook that you pull down and they hook to the frame underneath of here. So you've got to undo 2 on each side, 2 on the front, 2 on every side, and all the corners, right? Loosen those all up, and then you have to kind of go back around, so make another lap around the car, pull the actual cover up over each corner, being careful not to rip it. And then you have to kind of throw it over the truck, go around to the other side of the truck, and pull it off, right? I mean, we know that this is how these things work, but I just want to be very upfront with exactly how this one works. Because that was the first night I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a pain. And getting it back on is a little difficult too. So when I wake up tomorrow morning, I will put it back on and I will show you how that goes as well. It's basically the same thing in reverse, but I will say a tip is on this side, this is the door side. So this is the entry side. I have mine opening on my passenger side of my truck. There are big aluminum hinges right here. And if you go to this tag that I put up here, I'll show you what happened to my tent. I ripped the cover on these aluminum hinges. So I just want to warn everybody as you're using this tent, be very careful. It's not really a design flaw, it was my own stupidity. I was yanking on it, I was in a rush, and I just wasn't paying attention. I'd done it 5 or 6 times before, no problem, and then this time I just pulled down too hard as I kind of fell off the truck, and it cut right through it. So go from this side first. Start over at your entry side and put it on there so you don't rip it on those hinges, and then go to the passenger side. So again, just another tip. All right guys, so here we go. We're gonna now open up the Offgrid Raptor Series tent so you can see that in its entirety. I am gonna leave the camera over here probably and just do it all the way around so you can kind of see everything. I don't want to confuse anybody by like moving the camera a bunch and making it harder to understand, so you can just see me in real time as I undo this thing. Alright guys, so that was it. Tent is up, cover's off. I generally throw the cover inside the truck. There is enough room in the tent, especially if you're solo, that if you just didn't have room in your truck, you could throw it in like the foot of the tent. The measurements on this thing are that it's 7 feet long and about 48 inches or 4 feet across. I will say though, now that I've been in it and spent a bunch of nights in it, I think that's exterior dimension. So I actually took a tape measure when I first got it, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like 40 some inches, but definitely not 48 inside the tent. So just be aware of that. From a size standpoint though, I have had my wife and myself sleep in there comfortably, and it's been fine. I've had myself and my 7 and 10-year-old sleep in there, and that was fine. I put their heads at the other end, and they slept on either side of me, and I was in the middle. So there is a pretty decent amount of room. If you had a family of 4, it's going to be really tight. You're going to be laying on top of each other like peas in a pod. So just keep that in mind. But for a 1-person or a 2-person tent, it's perfect. Even for a 3-person or like an adult and 2 kids, it can work.
All right, guys, so just wanted to give you a quick update. It is the next morning, and I just woke up. It's about 8:30. It got down to high teens, low 20s last night. So I just wanted to show you how I had the tent vented. So this is what the end by my feet looks like. That's what the end by my head looks like. And then there's actually a fairly decent amount of condensation in here on the roof, which I'm just gonna wipe down with the towel and open up all the windows and let it kind of dry out for a few minutes. But I mean, just barely enough. It hasn't dripped or anything, but it's just hitting that limit. Now again, I know that looks like a lot, and it is a pretty decent amount of condensation, but like, keep in mind that it was just me by myself, but you know, exhaling air for, I think I went to bed at like 11:30, and I woke up and it's 8:30. So it's been 9 hours of breathing out. It wasn't cold enough. I just had the wool blanket and my 0-degree Coleman bag. And then I'm wearing a fleece and, you know, sweatpants with my pants over them and wool socks. But it wasn't actually cold enough. I never turned on the buddy heater, so I never even used that. So that'll be an interesting thing is, you know, when it gets colder and I actually use that thing, am I going to have a ton more condensation? So that'll be an interesting test, but I didn't even need it last night. I mean, the nice thing is this tent, you know, you can kind of see all the seams are sealed and everything. It was dead quiet in this thing. I was actually kind of concerned at one point. I'm like, am I deaf? Like, did I lose my hearing? But again, it's winter, so no one is out here. And the tent is just fairly thick material. Like, it's this really nice thick canvas that blocks out a lot of the sound and also is fairly like warm, keeps the temperature in once you seal it up. So I did have the front door closed all the way, back window closed all the way, and just these vented like this, and got about that much condensation. So just wanted to give you guys an update. Again, I'm gonna open up all the windows, give it half an hour maybe, and then I'm gonna pack it all down and I'm gonna take off.
Okay, guys, so the rooftop tent has collapsed, the shoe bags are all put in, sleeping bag and pillow are on the side of the door. Now it's just putting the cover on. This is the hardest and biggest pain in the butt of the whole thing. Just trying to be honest. It's not terrible though. Again, I've done it 15, 16 times now. So it's not too bad. It's going to look super awkward though, I promise you. It's not going to look like it's super easy to do. But it's not too bad. You basically have to pick a corner, throw it on, go to the opposite corner, throw that on, throw it across the top, and then go over there and just reach over and pull it. Again, I'm going to start on the door side so that I don't rip it on the hinges like I did the last time. One other thing to note is sometimes it can be difficult to know like which way is which. So I like to kind of go ahead and get it all out, like unfolded here, and then you can kind of more easily tell that this is clearly the long way, right? So this is going to be a side, that's a side, front, back. Another thing to make sure of is there are these two straps that go across the top. So if they're not on there, because like after you folded it up, sometimes they'll come off, like you can see here. You want to make sure that those get put back over the top. Because otherwise you're going to put the whole cover on, you're going to get to the other side and the straps aren't going to be there, they're going to be under the cover or somewhere else, and that's a nightmare. So I'm just checking, I got my strap here, goes across, so then this is going to be my front right here. So I'm just going to pull it up here. And I'm going to start with the corner. Afraid the whole thing's about to fall off. Okay. So it's kind of falling off a little bit. So I'm going to climb up. Okay, so basically what I did was I jumped on the back bumper, I pulled the rest of the cover across, and I've got that other corner connected now. So the only corner that's not on is that far corner, but what I want to do first is, you'll see this one's really far under the frame. That's going to make it really tough to get that far corner. So I'm going to kind of pull this up a little bit and just kind of get it in place. Same with this one. Now that I've got that on that corner, you can see it's a little off. It needs to go a couple inches around. So when I go to the other side and pull it, hopefully that should pull it around. Can't quite reach it. So you got to watch that hinge. See, I'm going to go back over there just to be safe. Of course, like everything camping, right? They can't just make stuff a little bit too big. It has to be just too small to where it's a pain in the butt to get back on. And here, right here is this hinge. So you really want to watch that edge because you can see it pushing into the fabric right now. That's where you want to watch. What I think is happening is that, again, this is tucked really far under. So it's almost like you have to pull it up to the very edge so that it's not so tucked under, so you get that extra couple inches of fabric, and then you have to pull it forward. It's been a while since I did this. Alright, there we go. So now the cover's on. Now I just have to do all the straps all the way around. Sometimes you have to loosen them up a little bit and then retighten them just to make them fit really well. But that's the easy part. Once the cover's on, that's the toughest part of it. So now we're home free. You just got to do all 4 corner straps, and then remember there's 2 hooks on each side. Now on the other side it was really easy because there was no tension, right? It's just this big long strap and I could pull it that way. So now on this side you can see the hook has to go another 2 inches under here, so it takes some maneuvering, it takes some pulling. Sometimes you got to loosen it a little bit, just get it under there and hooked, and then you can re-tighten it down. Without bedding, this goes all the way tight to where the Velcro can attach pretty easily. With bedding, sometimes the Velcro may not touch, and that's okay. Another thing to keep in mind is, especially with these big long straps on the top, so like I could pull these all the way down and Velcro them, but then it's going to be really off-sided or off-kilter on the other side, so I'm just going to put them a little bit tighter here and then go around and retighten those straps. Alright, so that's tight. We just go retighten those 2 straps on the other side and we're good. Alright guys, so that was it. As you can see, putting the cover on the next day is the worst part. Like, that's definitely the slow part, right? However, I will say, so I used this on a 5-day trip to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I was with a number of other people who had rooftop tents and things like that. And I was not any slower than anybody else, right? Those Smitty built style, the ones with all the awnings, they still have to undo all those pegs, fold everything down, fold it back across, push all the fabric in, put the cover on just like this. Same idea, right? Again, I think my ultimate solution, because this is a great tent and it's a good budget option, my ultimate probably solution is going to be fabricating some sort of a hard cover for it. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to try and think through it and come up with some ideas for like a way that I could make something that's like a box basically with straps that could just be, you know, 1/2 inch wider than the whole thing, that could just
be light enough to not be a pain. The bad thing about it is it won't fold down like the vinyl cover does right now. But anyways, I'm gonna try and think about it, because if I had a hard top cover for this that you could just throw on the top and cinch down, that would be amazing. But even with the vinyl cover, still, I don't regret buying this tent at all. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but for the benefits that you get on the other side, opening it up, the ease of storing the cover, not having it hang down on the side of the vehicle, definitely a good purchase. Super happy with it, but I wish I could just be like that, right? Like up and down, really quick and easy to cover and uncover. Another option someday may be just to make a vinyl cover off of this as a template and make it slightly larger, just so it's not so much of a hassle. Now I know with wind and stuff you don't want it flapping around, so it still needs to be tight and a thick material, but I don't think it needs to be that tight, so tight that you can't get it on.
All right, guys, so that was the putting up and taking down of the Offgrid Raptor Series tent. Hopefully those tips were helpful, right? And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Like, post up if you've got the tent or you just bought the tent and you have questions. I'm happy to help. Again, I've used it quite a bit, so I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on how it all operates and kind of the tips and tricks, and I tried to put as many of them in the video as possible. But again, if there's anything that I missed or anything that you guys want to hear about, just post up in the comments below. Also, if you want to join the conversation in other places, look at the links down below for Facebook, Instagram, podcast. I'm kind of all over the place, so I try to stay on top of all those places, and I chat with everybody, and I love it. So if you're a Facebook person, if you're an Instagram person, you want to hang out, definitely go subscribe over there as well. So again, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it, and post up in the comments below with any questions you've got, and otherwise we'll see you next time.